Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Clark Time Media.
Look like Brianna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu has broken their silence about this massacre their team just had.
On their home court, the reigning champions were completely destroyed, and the fallout was priceless. After being outplayed by 14 points, Sabrina Ionescu and Brianna Stewart took the microphone. And rather of offering justifications, they took a stunning action. Their frank evaluation of Caitlin Clark's performance eliminated any possibility of disagreement regarding the league's leadership. Do you think the Liberty Stars were simply being politically correct after being schooled, or were you taken aback by how kind they were in defeat? If you appreciate this content, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 85% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. It's free and only takes a second, but it means the world to us. So, did you subscribe already?
Great.
Thank you so much for your support. Now, back to the video.
The performance we saw from Caitlin Clark today against a team that started off the season 9-0, a team that is the defending champions, might have been the greatest women's basketball performance we have ever seen. That might have been the greatest showing from a WNBA player we have ever witnessed. That was spectacular. The shots she hit in this game, y'all, were something like I've never seen any other women basketball player ever come close to hitting. There are NBA superstars out there that I have not seen have a game with that.
When you see greatness being recognized by other greatness, context counts, so let's create the scenario. As the reigning champions, the New York Liberty entered this game comfortably atop the standings, perhaps believing they could defeat a Fever team that had been having trouble without its main player. Rather, students received a comprehensive basketball instruction along with a diploma. After missing 5 games due to injury, Caitlin Clark showed everyone why she is the most significant player in professional basketball right away. There are enough highlight reel moments to fill a Netflix documentary, along with 32 points and 7 assists. Here's the worst part, though. Sabrina and Brianna Stewart didn't back down or make excuses after being thoroughly outclassed by Clark and the Fever. What took place? They presented Clark with the flowers she was due.
Like we go on runs, they do as well. They're a great team. So I don't think it's defeating. I think obviously we know what a great shooter she is, and I think we just gave her too many easy ones. Obviously, she has great range, and her ability to get her shot off is really impressive, especially with missing some games. And so obviously on a personal level, I'm really happy to see her back out on the court, healthy, feeling good, because obviously it's important for them. But
after missing several games, Sabrina was quick to offer credit where credit was due when asked about Clark's performance. She recognized Clark's shooting prowess, her range, and, above all, her capacity to make a shot in spite of defensive pressure. That goes beyond simply being courteous. That's identifying exceptional talent when you see it, even if it just made you look foolish on national television. However, Sabrina did more than simply recognize Clark's abilities. She was really delighted to see Clark back on the court in good health. Personally, I'm thrilled to see her back on the court in excellent health because, while it's obviously essential for them, I'm also pleased for her. You wouldn't say it about someone you saw as merely an adversary. That's how you show respect for a player you think is unique. Sabrina's admission that they gave Clark too many easy ones was the most revealing aspect of her remarks. Take a moment to consider that. One of the greatest shooters in WNBA history is saying this. Recognizing that even somewhat open looks become automatic makes due to Clark's exceptional shot-making skill. Sabrina is an expert at blasting threes from unattainable distances, so you pay attention when she says someone has excellent range. Although it took a different tack, Brianna Stewart's strategy was just as courteous. Stewart, one of the most successful players in the league with titles and MVP honors, could have easily diverted attention from Clark's performance by emphasizing officiating or team failures. Rather, she accepted the fact that a superior team had outplayed them that specific evening.
Action with one another. Stewie's laughing. Caitlin knows it's ridiculous. Just out there having a good time with it.
Throughout the game, Stewart's body language conveyed a message. Stewart was standing by to protect her as Clark hit that logo 3. Stewart actually grinned and appeared to enjoy the shot rather than expressing annoyance or rage. Even if it came at the expense of their team, that is the response of someone who realizes they have just seen something exceptional.
We had our moments. We got back into the game. We had that run when Stewie was guarding Caitlin Clark, but then they executed well. And, we had so many breakdowns on defense, and they made shots. They really punished us on that end, making, 17 threes from 35. It was just too wide open. So
Stewart mentioned defensive lapses, but these weren't isolated errors. They resulted directly from Clark's gravitational pull on the defenses of the opposition. Teams' defensive strategies are drastically altered when a single player can pull up from anywhere beyond half court and make it appear effortless. The Liberty were utterly unsuccessful in their attempt to protect Clark while keeping everyone else safe. The setting of the rivalry that media outlets have attempted to create between Clark and other WNBA stars is what gives these post-game remarks even more significance. Ionescu and Stewart both followed the high road and provided frank evaluations of what they saw rather than feeding into the drama or making fun of Clark's achievements. Even the most prejudiced spectator cannot dispute the narrative presented by the game's data. The Fever had a ridiculously high three-point shooting percentage. When defenses are so preoccupied with stopping one player that they leave professional shooters wide open, Clark leads the charge and her teammates profit from the attention she commands. As a result, professional shooters typically make their shots. The psychological effect Clark has on opposition teams is demonstrated by Stewart's admission that they overuse their players in an attempt to keep up with the Fever's offensive outburst. Rushed shoots and defensive lapses resulted from the Liberty's pressure to match the Fever's offensive production. That goes beyond basketball. That is one player controlling the game's overall flow. This scenario was made more complex by the coach's viewpoint. Sandy Brondello didn't offer justifications for poor officiating or absent players. She admitted that the Fever performed better and made their shots when it counted. You can tell that an opponent's performance was genuine and outstanding when coaches at the championship level give them full credit. The Liberty's defensive stats from this game are very terrible. They let up 102 points, 53 of which came in the first half, to a club that had been having offensive difficulties without Clark. It's more than just bad defense. One player's ability to distort rival game plans is the reason for that total systematic failure. It was intriguing when Sabrina said that basketball is a game of runs since it recognized that the Fever's supremacy wasn't only due to a great shooting night or fortunate break. She saw that Indiana kept up their intensity throughout the game and successfully carried out their strategy. That's praising long-term excellence instead of fleeting luck. This game's whole plot is revealed by the shooting discrepancy. While the Liberty only made 20% of their three-pointers, the Fever made 17. That is not fortuitous, because one team's best player commands so much defensive attention that everyone else becomes more threatening. That team receives better looks. Stewart's analysis of the team's resiliency was insightful since it showed how deeply this tragedy affected their mental health. Although the Liberty take great pleasure in their ability to compete at the championship level, they acknowledged that they had trouble keeping up with Clark's pace and execution. The transition game statistics from this matchup were especially harsh for the Liberty, and it tells volumes about Clark's influence when defending champs are talking about having to look in the mirror after losing to a club that was written off without their star. In contrast to their recent difficulties in that area, the Fever produced 19 quick break possibilities. Clark's ability to accelerate and generate scoring opportunities before defenses can set up is directly responsible for that. Stewart acknowledged this by pointing out how challenging it got when they were unable to establish their half-court attack and make stops. Ionescu's admission that they struggle offensively when they can't transition shows how much Clark's presence interfered with their overall strategy. Defensive stops that created attacking opportunities were the foundation of the Liberty's identity. However, the entire structure collapses when the other team scores at will. Clark's solo performance wasn't the only way she defeated them. She broke down their idea of a team. The Liberty situation was made worse by the discrepancy in free throws during this contest. They were unable to match the Fever's offensive efficiency, even though they received more foul calls. Stewart's admission that they didn't reach the rim far enough illustrates how Clark's perimeter presence made it harder to locate and take advantage of driving lanes. The explanation of coaching changes was especially fascinating since it showed how the Liberty attempted several defensive strategies to slow down Clark but were unsuccessful. Everything was switched. They experimented with zone coverage. They tried to completely deny her the ball. Nothing was effective. A player has transcended typical basketball categories when championship-level coaching staffs are at a loss for solutions. Stewart's remarks regarding team identity and knowing who we are were instructive since they implied that this defeat made them reevaluate their position in the league hierarchy. The Liberty were the league leaders and reigning champs going into this game, but they left wondering if they are indeed the best team when everyone is healthy. These post-game sentiments are further complicated by the global viewpoint. Both Ionescu and Stewart have competed internationally for their nations and are familiar with the highest levels of elite basketball. Their assessment of Clark's skill is more credible since it comes from athletes who have faced the greatest in the world and are able to recognize excellence. The fact that Sabrina specifically mentioned Clark's ability to make her shot brought to light a distinction between skilled shooters and outstanding scorers. Making open shots is not the only thing to do. When the game is on the line, you have to create and make shots as defenders are all over you. Throughout this game, Clark frequently shown that skill. Stewart mentioned defensive communication problems, but these weren't coincidental mistakes. Defenders were forced to make snap decisions that frequently turned out to be incorrect as a direct result of Clark's movement and decision-making. Even championship-level teams become unimpressive when one player can routinely put 5 defenders in untenable situations. The conversation over the pace of play demonstrated how Clark's return altered the game's overall rhythm. The Liberty are accustomed to dictating gameplay and regulating tempo. However, Clark's presence compelled them to adopt a fast-paced approach that benefited Indiana's players and strategy. Stewart's recognition of this demonstrates his professional regard for Clark's influence on game flow. Making shots wasn't the only aspect of the shooting performance that earned high recognition. It has to do with choosing shots and making choices under duress. Even when making seemingly challenging shots, Clark continually made the right decisions at the proper times. Ionescu's acknowledgement of this demonstrates an awareness of the differences between players who are merely good and those who are truly outstanding. The Fever's offensive identity was instantly restored with Clark's return, making the conversation of team chemistry pertinent. Without her, players who previously had trouble finding rhythm appeared at ease and self-assured. Stewart recognized that this was more than just individual genius in his observation of execution. Everyone in their immediate vicinity was greatly improved by one player. The Liberty's attempt to put Clark under defensive pressure failed dramatically since it gave her teammates more opportunities. Stewart's admission that she gave up too many open ones demonstrated how Clark's strength as a scorer generates benefits that go much beyond her specific numbers. The post-game interview's examination of the game plan demonstrated how well the Fever had prepared for this encounter. They took advantage of defensive patterns that championship teams typically manage to conceal and targeted certain Liberty weaknesses. The execution of these strategic advantages was largely dependent on Clark's court vision and decision-making. Once Clark found her rhythm, the game's momentum changes all seemed to go in Indiana's favor. Because Clark could create offense from anywhere on the court, the Fever had an answer even when the Liberty scored runs. Stewart's recognition of this fact demonstrated professional respect for a player who has the ability to alter game results on their own. Beyond only scoring, Clark's 7 assists demonstrated her ability to improve teammates' performances, demonstrating her statistical domination. Ionescu's appraisal of Clark's full game demonstrated an awareness that individuals who are truly excellent have an impact on winning in more ways than just individual scoring. Stewart and Ionescu were both aware of the championship ramifications of this defeat. They admit that when Clark is healthy, losing to the Fever alters the perception of the league's top club. Defending champions don't make such an admission lightly. These post-game remarks demonstrate a level of respect that goes beyond simple professionalism. Both athletes realized that they had seen a performance that reaffirmed Clark's status as a generational talent. They demonstrated the kind of sportsmanship that enhances the league as a whole by being prepared to give credit where credit is due. You know you've seen something exceptional when defending champs publicly commended the player who just made them look bad. Instead of offering justifications, Ionescu and Stewart respected Clark for her commanding performance. How did you feel about their elegant reaction to being outplayed? For more WNBA analysis that keeps it interesting, click the like button, share your opinions below, and subscribe.